All right, you guys, welcome back. Strong, well-fed, outspoken. We are happy that you are here. This is the beginning of our New Year's series. So, January 1st is upon you. You guys have officially been warned. um, I want to say that like you're seeing now, like, oh, like you're bombarded with all of the plans and new year, new me. But like, let's be real, you've probably already been seeing it for the last 6 weeks, probably since Thanksgiving. It's
Truly.
been pushed out in your direction. So we're hoping to give you guys in the next couple of episodes here as much information as possible. That's always kind of the name of the game, but also kind of steer you out of the direction of bullshit.
Always. That's always kind of like front of mind. Every time we come up with like these episode topics, I'm like, these are things I know I have struggled with getting spammed early on in the
Yes.
process, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. And like for me, I mean, I even think back to like some of the New Year's not resolutions because actually I'm actually a fan of resolutions, but the New Year's programs I like hopped on board with and how terrible some
Yes.
of them were. Do any jump in out to you that you really remember?
I'm trying to think. There was one I did. It was like 21 days, like start the new year right. And
Yep.
I remember like it was a lot of like getting down on my knees and then getting back up. And at the time, I'm
Okay.
like, oh yeah, like this is working. Like my heart is pumping and I'm sweating. And I'm like, what a horrible thing to be doing for the body I was in at the
Just
time.
constantly
Like
up and
I was
down.
so overweight and so unwell from surgeries and stuff that I was like awkwardly leaning to the side. Like that's not helpful in any way. That did nothing for me except hurt my feelings.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Not
so
that there's
terrible.
anything wrong with kneeling movements, but this like kneel to stand as like a leg movement, not ideal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could see that 100%.
Yeah.
Um,
What
I
about you?
actually
Did you have any like horror stories?
I feel like I have horror stories like just in general. I don't recall like a specific new. Okay, no, actually, you know what? That's a lie. There was one um challenge because they're always
They're always a
challenges, right?
challenge.
Yeah.
Always.
Um that Steph and I actually did together. So for anyone tuning in for the first time, Steph is my man. And he was really like adamant that year, like he wanted to drop some weight, he was not feeling so good. So to be honest, I kind of did it more to like do it with him because I was
Yeah, to support them through that.
yeah, and it was really like, so first of all, it was a templated plan, so everybody got the same one, which is like
Classic.
red flag number one. Yeah. And I sorry, I'm not even talking workouts because there are workouts that majority of people can follow and see progress. I'm talking
And honestly,
nutrition.
we're going to
So
talk about sort of almost the template that every personal trainer probably uses. There's going to
yeah.
be a little bit of that as we talk later today, but
Yes, absolutely, yeah. But yeah, we're talking nutrition. So like all the guys, didn't matter what your age was, height, weight, all the guys got the same nutrition and all the women got the same
oh, I got
nutrition.
one of those once. Yeah, that sucks.
Oh, brutal. Yeah. And it was also they wanted you to basically like fast for 2 days a week, where I think the guys only ate like they wanted you to eat no more than 700 calories if you were a guy, no more than
Oh,
500
red flag.
if you
It's
were
in
a
our
girl.
name. Well
Oh,
fed.
oh, yeah, honestly, right? I was like, bitch, I like did not. Steph's in the. I never told this to him, and he's like in the room behind me. But I like on the fast days, I like did not fast. I was, I was like, yeah, I'm like, I'm not doing this
But let's
shit.
also talk about how that's not like a great mental space to be in when you're trying to follow something, right? Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. But mind you, I like intentionally because I was already back like working in the fitness industry again. So I was like, this is bullshit. I'm not doing this, but I wanted to like support him. And honestly, guys are better at fasting than like even physiologically than
yes.
women. And anyways, we both did still like lose some weight, but actually Steph did lose. He killed it over the 8 weeks and he won the challenge. So he won, I think at the time it was like a $500 prize and he won it. And yeah, it was like, I'm like, this is a horror story for me.
But I think
You
too,
know?
a takeaway here is like a lot of what you see, people do have success at, but then it's short lived, right?
Yes.
Because it's not this thing you can keep doing over and over again because it's really, really difficult. And when
Yeah.
we talk about like weight loss and fitness and things like that, it's not always about giving up everything, but it
Yep.
is about restricting some things sometimes. And with a lot
Yes.
of what you're going to be
Amen.
seeing going into the New Year's is very restrictive. And it sucks.
That's a big problem here. And like what you just said, so Steph crushed it. You know what, guys? Like anyone listening here, you have the capacity to do the hard things.
Absolutely.
Uh, period. Yeah. And when it's really hard, this is the problem because we tell ourselves, literally tell ourselves it's temporary. It's 8 weeks. And that's a big problem. And so guess what? That weight loss for Steph never actually lasted. So anyways, that's a whole other topic, but, that was probably, yeah, the craziest one I've done that I can remember in the last 7 years or something. But anyways, for today, you guys, we are actually not going to talk too much about nutrition. Today, we're going to talk about your training. And the reason why we want to start off with training is because I know we've both been there, right? A lot of you guys are probably starting the new year, not having hired a coach, which is totally fine, not working with anyone, but like setting goals for yourself and feeling like I can do this, I can show up for me. And we want to support you in that. Like, yes, we are both coaches. You know, you can work with us one on one. You can hop onto our team. We'd love to have you. There's a link on how you can do that in the show notes below. But we really want to help you guys be successful, even if that is you figuring it out on your own. And so, for a lot of people, what I would actually recommend in the New Year's is not to jump into everything all at once. You know, don't start week one thinking you're going to change your nutrition and your workouts.
And
Okay.
your sleep
Um,
and your everything, right? Like
yeah, it's a lot.
it's
It's
a
a
lot. And
lot.
it's hard to completely revamp your life.
Yeah.
No one in your support network is going to understand that, including
Yes.
yourself.
Yeah, yeah, it is really true. You kind of question yourself, like, why am I doing this again? But you know, a great thing you could do for yourself is to start with one new thing.
Mhm.
So even if you just focus on the workouts and the movement and you keep your nutrition the same, literally the first week or two, you will start to feel different. And from that, you will start to build positive momentum and it'll make it way easier for you to now be like, okay, what can I start changing with my nutrition? So that's kind of why we're starting with a workout segment first.
And I find
And
personally, even now, having gone through this multiple times and still navigating it on the daily,
yeah.
starting with workouts, you know how to move in your body. You've been doing it your whole life. Nutrition is a lot of like mental work. It's a lot of
Yes.
learning.
It's
Whereas
more
you
new.
can look at a workout and go, yeah, I do know how to move up and down or left and right. And so there's power in that because you start doing that and you start seeing the positives from it. And then your whole system starts to go. It goes, okay, well, we worked out today. Let's eat a vegetable, right? And it
Yeah.
compounds, but we want to compound from a place of confidence, not from a place of overwhelm.
Yeah. Although I'm gonna be honest with you guys, sometimes when I work out, my first thought is like, I'm gonna eat a vegetable. I'm like, I'll go home and eat a cookie.
That's so funny. I do so much better on nutrition when I'm committed to my workouts. When I have
Yeah,
to focus just on nutrition, it's a struggle.
it's a struggle. Yeah, yeah. No, I can see that. I can see that for sure. But so for today, workout specifically that we are talking about is actually how to design a full body workout routine. Now, real quickly, why are we talking about full body? Because most of y'all are hopping into the new year doing too much too soon. Listen, there
True.
are a ton of different training splits out there. Okay. Yes, there's push pull legs, there's your classic bodybuilder style, you know, there's power building, there's strength, there's like strength specific focuses, but all of these plans or majority of these plans will have you guys in the gym 4+ days a week.
Yeah, and you're gonna hear a lot of terms like conjugate method, and like you're gonna go, "Oh yeah, that's for me. I want to look like that." I'm
Yeah.
over here telling you, I think there's a lot of value in that. I don't even fully understand the methodology behind it in enough to guide someone through it confidently, right?
Yeah, that's
But
honest, man.
we all have a body. It's all whole. That
Yeah.
works.
Yep, yep, for sure. And so we want you guys again to start off your new year with as realistic a plan as possible. Do not fear the word realistic. Being realistic doesn't make you, you know, a wimp. It doesn't mean you're not training hard enough. It doesn't mean anything outside of the fact that you're likely going to be more successful long term. And truthfully, full body workouts are a phenomenal place to start. Even if you're not like a true
Yeah,
beginner.
not even to start. I mean, I just did a round of full
Yes.
body.
No. You're absolutely right. Not even to start. I personally love full body training. And one of the
Even when
reasons
I have a bigger split, there's often still a full body day because that works better for my life.
Oh yeah, one of my actually favorite programming styles is to do like a push pull legs full for a 4 day week program, or even like an upper lower full
Mhm.
um for a 5 day split. Anyways, there's so many splits, and honestly, you guys, there's a million ways to train. There's a million ways to set up your program, and that topic has been talked about a million different times, and we will talk about it more over the podcast. But we're not going to talk about that today. Instead, we are going to literally talk about exactly how to build a full body workout so that you can rock out the next 4, 6, 8 weeks and start to see some progress right
Right.
off the hop.
At the end of
Um,
this episode, pen and paper, you can
yes,
confidently walk into a gym or even in your home and know, okay, I am accurately hitting the body parts that I need to, and I have a plan to continue to build on.
yes, yes. And on that note, I just decided this spur of the moment. So now I'm going to be holding myself to it. But to complement this podcast episode, Nell and I will work on a little bit of a layout that we will share on our social media
Oh,
channel.
that's a great
So,
idea. Yeah.
yeah, we're doing it now.
We're doing it.
So you guys can listen to this, take your notes like Nell said, but then we'll also give you some examples in a post that will come out at the same time as you're hearing this episode. So literally go to our social media, and there will be a post there that you guys can save and reference back
I
to.
love
But
this because we're going to give you guys some terms like push and pull. And there are going to be some movements in your mind that are really obviously a push or a pull. But then
mhm,
there are going to be movements and you are going to go, are they? I still do this as a coach. I'm like, which
yeah,
way am I moving away from the body? Because I still have to reference these things. And so, yeah, this
totally.
is great. This is a great idea.
Totally. A lot of people just on that note don't think about the fact that like, and we'll talk about this more, but they don't think about the fact that like when you program something like, let's say, a squat in with like an overhead press and a bench press, that's actually a lot of push
Push,
based
push.
movements.
Yeah.
You don't think about your squat being push based. So it's very anterior being the front half of your body. You are overloading, or you're heavily loading the front half of your body. So again, that we'll dive into it. But as we kind of talked about, we both love full body training. And one of the reasons I love full body training is because, to be honest with you, I think it's harder than most styles of training. And I know a lot of people will be like, what? Like, those are like fighting words, but it is, bitch. It is. Full body training is, it's very dynamic,
Yeah, so
which
I
is
guess
why.
let's talk about all of the things that are a positive to the full body training.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like right off the hop, big thing that comes to my mind is that you are literally training every single muscle group in the same workout. Which means though as well that you are also going to be working different energy systems, uh, all in the same workout again, because the energy system required for doing like some heavy ass squats is going to be very different than the energy system required for doing some dumbbell lateral raises.
It's funny that you said
Um,
lateral raise because in my mind I was like, and lateral raises.
yeah, absolutely. I'm like, what's the like
So for you
upper
guys
this
that are
thing?
directionally challenged like I am, a lateral raise would be like moving your arm away from the side of your body. So if you're new
Yes.
here, that's what a lateral raise is. You joke, we joke that that's going to be the bane of your existence. You're probably going to use the same weight forever and ever until you die.
Yeah. No, it's so true. But even if we were to keep it with like the lower body, right? Energy system required to do some again heavy deadlifts. Let's say in this case, going to be very different than the energy system required to do like abduction on a machine, right? Or some glute kickbacks. So big benefit there is we're using again every muscle group. We're also using a variety of different energy systems in the body. We are also taking, therefore, our body through different movement patterns, again, all within the same workout, right? As I just said, right? A squat being is going to be more, what's this?
Up
If you're
and
not
down.
watching,
We can
up and
oh,
down,
do you
yeah,
want the actual
vertical. Vertical. Um, whereas again, doing something like abduction, right? We are abducting from the midline of the body, so you're moving more horizontally. Very simple, but just different movement patterns happening. Um, And then another thing, I mean, I love about full body workouts is that I find, and this is very anecdotal, so this is my personal opinion, that my focus and concentration is way higher. And I think that that's because I know I'm doing more work in a smaller amount of time, so to speak, that I'm just way more focused. I'm way more locked in. And I honestly find that my workouts are, yeah, really eventful and like very dynamic and fun in that sense.
Yeah, and to add to that, you're likely doing a lot more work in a shorter or smaller time frame, and then you're less likely to hold back. I find when
Yeah,
I'm setting
yeah.
up for like a really heavy, like say lower body lift day, if I
Mhm.
know my deadlifts are later on and my squats are at the start, I probably don't put as much effort into my squats knowing that I need to perform my deadlift. And I find
Yeah.
when I do a full body split, mentally, I'm not trying to, like, save myself for the next thing. I'm there and
Mhm.
I'm committed to putting my best foot forward because I know I'm hitting my whole body, and it's not like,
Right.
"Oh, gotta squat heavy, so don't do the first part of the workout as best you can," right? You know?
Yes. No, it's so true. When you're looking at your training program and you're like, okay, I've got 6, 7, leg movements and they don't even necessarily all have to be, let's say, quad focus. You just know you've got 6, 7 leg movements. I think you're absolutely right. There's a part of you start off your workout, pre-workout is hitting and you're like killing it, but by like exercise 4, you're like, man, I still got 3 more to do after this. There's something to be said for that for sure. Whereas you're like, all right, I'm doing 2 exercises for my legs. I'm crushing it. Now I'm moving on.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then on the flip side, like, are there any negatives to full body training? Because obviously we want to talk about both. Do you have any negatives that hop into your mind?
Yeah, so the biggest, like, negative or con to a full body training, was something I actually lived. So I had reconstructive surgery on my arm. So, like,
Mhm.
could I potentially do a full body workout? Not even an option.
Yeah.
So if I thought there was only the full body option, I wouldn't have been able to train my legs the same way or still find ways to move. So I think injury or restrictions in that sort of way would limit my want to put someone through a full body workout.
Yeah.
Um, I think other another con, and this take this with a grain of salt, would be if you struggle with taking rest,
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
you are kind of currently in that all in mindset and you're struggling to take downtime, a full body split and you're trying to do it 5 or 6 days a week might not be a good fit.
Yeah, yeah, that is absolutely true. And as with anything, right, there are going to be limitations here. Um, full body training, I think there comes a point as well when we do have to decide, are there certain things we are maybe trying to prioritize more than others? Um, that can of course play in, like, uh I don't want to jump too far ahead for what we are going to talk about, but yes, we will kind of talk a little bit more about that. Um, Going back to benefits here, one thing I want to say, and I said this before, is that I personally think that like full body training is harder than most other styles of training while being, yes, super beneficial. So like some other benefits to consider is, as you kind of mentioned with rest times here, with full body training, we have to look at our workouts in terms of overall volume, right? So, as we kind of start to dive into the weeds here, your workout, you guys have probably heard the term volume before, but we're looking at volume and intensity realistically in order to see progress, whether that's strength wise or hypertrophy, right? In order to grow muscle, we need to stimulate the muscle protein synthetic response in the body. Now, that's going to happen no matter what style of training you put forward. But when we look at something like full body training and we talk about volume, so there's 2 ways to assess how much volume that you're doing. One, we've got volume in terms of overall total like working sets and reps. And then we've also got volume in terms of how much weight you're actually working.
Yeah, so how
So
much you're doing the movement versus how much you're holding while
lifting.
you do the movement.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, in a full body workout, a big complaint a lot of people have, or a big con a lot of people think of is I'm not working a certain muscle group often enough, right? Because we are so used to, I think, on social media being bombarded with this idea of like you should be doing 5, 6, 7 leg exercises in a session. The idea of now only doing two, a lot of people think I'm not going to see enough progress from that. But I want you to keep in mind if we're talking about full body workouts, right? Let's say 3 times a week, okay? And you are doing leg movements in each of those sessions, then by the end of the week, if you are doing 2 leg exercises in each of those sessions, you are hitting 6 exercises at the end of the week, right? And that's on a minimum basis.
And that's
Um,
if none of the other muscles worked as a unit. That would be like if you could isolate, say, just your quadriceps, or you could isolate just your glute or your hamstring, you would still have 6 exercises. But the reality is, doing a squat, doing a deadlift, those are going to work a main mover, but also the supporting muscles are still getting hit. So it's not like you're not doing lower body work. You're doing lower body with a focus on a certain muscle, but everything else is still working as a whole,
yeah,
which is a
absolutely.
huge benefit to whole body training.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. You're totally right. So again, when we're looking at overall volume here, in a push pull legs or in a bodybuilding style training program, yes, you might have, 1 to 2 days specific for legs where you absolutely obliterate your legs. But whether you are doing, 8 total sets at the like in one session, or you are spreading those sets out throughout the course of the week, the point is at the end of the week the volume is still the same here. And something to consider is that you are likely actually going to be able to perform better and lift more weight when you're actually spreading the volume out over the week versus doing it all in one session. Because as you brought up beforehand, when you do know that you have so many workout or so many exercises coming up, all for, let's say, your legs or your shoulders, there's a part of you that could potentially subconsciously be holding yourself back. But there's also a part of you that is trying to give it your all, but your all is eventually going to run out, right? As our workout goes on and as we start to accumulate more volume, not just in terms of how many sets you're performing, but how much weight you're lifting over and over again on your quads, your hamstrings, your shoulders, your fatigue, specifically your muscle fatigue, is going to start to accumulate. And so there's a very good chance that, maybe your last exercise, your last two, maybe even your last 3 exercises, you're not actually giving as much as you could be giving. Whereas, again, if you are just doing 2 exercises, we're not dealing as much with muscle fatigue in that specific muscle because now we're able to attack those exercises with full effort, full intensity, and then we're moving on.
Mhm.
We're
And I
not accumulating as much.
and as I hear you talk about this, I actually realized too another plus to whole body programming or total body programming
Yeah.
is what your career path is. I've
Mm,
programmed for professional dancers and things like that, right? And a lot or professional ballet dancers. So that is a lot of like lower based work that they're putting into their craft every single day. And so
mm.
if I was giving them multiple leg days in their workout, their actual career might actually not be as comfortable for them, right? Because they're
Yeah.
constantly sore, they're constantly dealing with fatigue in certain muscles. And so that's why a whole body split is a really great option depending on what you do
Yeah.
for work.
Yeah, that I never honestly, I did not actually think about that
I
when we
didn't put
put
it
our
together until just this moment.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Right?
that's a
But if
really
you think
good
about it,
point.
like if your job is a rock climber, this is real. I have friends, they own a rock climbing gym. That is their job. It is so upper body
Yep.
based, right? Yes, your legs are working and stuff, but it's very upper body based. So a whole body
Yeah.
split might be better for someone like that, right? Or what are those guys that climb the power poles? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Oh,
we have
like
to look at
hydro
the
guys?
movement patterns that you're doing every day.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. No, no. And that kind of brings me to point number two. A big benefit with full body training is that it is super flexible for life. Whether the life component is because of your job or you don't have a cool job being like doing rock climbing for
I
a
mean, yeah,
living,
maybe your
but
job
you
is
love
like
to
everybody's.
Yeah, yeah, honestly. But let's just say you love to rock climb or you travel a lot, right? Or even let's be real, like we all just go through very busy seasons in life. A lot
Yes.
of the time during these busy seasons, when we're talking from a practicality standpoint, if you're always trying to force yourself to hit 4 workouts a week or 5 workouts a week and it's not happening, then you need to get real with yourself and just start sticking to a program that you're actually able to do in full. So instead of week after week missing one session, especially when we're talking about, you're not hitting shoulders every time because you're split, you're only hitting shoulders twice a week, and now you're missing that one time a week because it's just not practical for life. Is it really worth it? Like, you need to let the idea go.
Truly, and you and I have had
So,
this exact conversation. I was
yep,
teaching a lot of in person at the time, and I was on a fairly full split of workouts, and I
yes,
went to you and I'm like, it's just not happening. It's not that
yep,
I'm not committed to the process. It's that like there are less hours in the day for me to commit to doing that. And so we did switch to a total body split for a while. And then when that phase of life passed, we moved on to the next thing. So if you guys don't know,
totally.
Rusty does my programming.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been awesome. Of course, like handling your programming on top of that. But I do remember that. Yeah. And I remember as well, one of the things you said was like your joints were like literally hurting.
Yeah,
Like
it
you were like,
wasn't that I had like muscle fatigue. It was like I literally was falling apart at the time.
yeah, which is a huge sign, right? It's a
Yeah, because
huge
there
sign.
wasn't the recovery time that I needed.
Yep. And then like the last thing before we dive into how to actually build a full body workout here, you guys, and this one is super important, is full body workouts are fantastic because they help you master your movements.
Yes.
Um, Again, because we are doing movements more often throughout the week. And I don't want you to hear this and think like, wait, so I'm going to do like a barbell back squat like 3 times a week. No, you shouldn't be doing that. But uh, when we look at the movement pattern of a squat, we will see that movement pattern happen more often throughout the week, which is going to contribute overall to, let's say, your big compound movement of a barbell back squat.
Yeah, because
Um,
every movement, every exercise, there's a human movement pattern that you use every day in your life that is
yeah.
going to be A, very similar, or B, use the same muscles.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So mastering the movement is huge, guys. You have to build up your skill set around an exercise in order to be able to do it effectively. Like nobody got good at what it is they're good at by doing it once a week.
Mhm.
Right? You look at a gymnast. Do you think a gymnast, practice their, I don't even know, gym movements, a backflip once a week? No, they were probably practicing it to a certain degree every single day or doing other training exercises that were very similar to, again, this is a bad example. I know nothing about gymnasts, but you know what I mean, right? They
Yes.
they did things repeatedly over and over again in order to master that movement. They are training it often, and here's a really big thing. Like, if you guys could take one thing from this, okay, I want you to remember that before you can build muscle inside a range of motion, you need to be effective within that range of motion.
I love that.
Okay. Yeah. So, again, before you can build muscle inside a range of motion, you need to be effective within that range of motion. So, if you want to have a better squat, a better deadlift, a better shoulder press, then you need to do movements that mimic those things. I actually just had a client ask me the other day about a squat and how low they should go. And this was the conversation we had. Like, if you can get ass to grass all the way down to the bottom, but all the tension is on your lower back and your form is terrible and there's no mind muscle connection and you look like you're going to hurt yourself, then what is the point? So in order to build muscle, we need to get really good at our movement. We need to be effective within the active range of motion. So on that note, how do we build an effective full body workout? How do you, let's start with you, girl. How do you, when you're programming with your clients, what's the first thing you look at?
So the first things I always consider are your availability, your wants, and your needs, right? What can you commit to working out?
Mhm,
Is it
mhm.
that you really do genuinely only have 2 days a week that happen for workouts?
Yep,
Um, what kind of equipment do you have access to, right? Are we looking at just doing body weight? Are you going to a gym? Do you have a set of dumbbells? And then we've talked about this before being a con to whole body workouts, but like movement issues or concerns, right? Is
yep,
there physical limitations that may prevent certain things from happening? So
yep.
those are the number one things I look at before I even think about programming for someone.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Absolutely. I look at all of those things as well because, again, practicality has to be at the forefront, you guys. Now, when you do start to realize, okay, how much time I have here, if we are talking about twice a week, then absolutely it should be completely full body workouts. If we are, generally speaking, I like to keep things, I'll be real with you guys, at least a minimum of 3 times a week in
Yeah,
terms of
3
just
is what I always aim
overall.
for, but I have
Yeah,
had people commit to 2 just because of
absolutely.
where they were at in their life, because 2 is
Yeah.
better than none, right?
Exactly. Something is always better than nothing, you guys. Always, always. Um, but when we're talking about 3 times a week, so we could literally be looking at, uh, true to form full body days. We could also be looking at like an upper lower full. This is where we could still be looking at like a push pull full. Okay. So in that case, when we're talking about a push pull full, I don't want you to think push and pull are only your upper bodies because remember again as we said at the beginning here, something like a squat would be considered a push based
Yes, because you're
movement.
coming up away from the floor.
Exactly. So in that case, we would still actually be doing legs on all of those days, but your push movements would likely be more quad dominant movements. I want you guys to think about your body, okay, front and backwards, okay, or yeah, anterior and posterior. So front and
Front and back,
backwards.
yeah.
Pretty much all of the muscle groups on the front of your body are going to be involved in pushing. Pretty much because your triceps technically sit on the back end and they're going to push for you. Okay. But when we're talking about your shoulders, your chest, your quads, right? So again, squat being quad dominant, going to be your pushing movement, leg extension, leg press, things like that. When we're talking about pulling movements, it's going to be mostly on the back side of your body. So again, your back, just like triceps are the exception, your biceps are the exception here too. They do sit on the front, but they are going to pull. But then we're talking hamstrings, things like that. So a push pull that is still involving legs as well, and then full here too. Now, a great rotation, I just want to throw this out there because a lot of people tend to think about full body workouts in terms of, yes, 3 times a week and having like 3 workouts and you just do those 3 workouts every single time. I actually love a 6 day rotational split here, or technically by the time we add in rest days there, it would be like a 10-day rotation. I want you to remember that your training schedule does not necessarily have to follow a calendar schedule. So it doesn't have to follow the 7 days of a calendar. So in this case, we could actually have something like a upper, lower, full again, right? That we're constantly rotating through. Things like that can start to get a little bit more or sorry, not upper lower. We could do literally upper lower, upper lower, upper lower. So that's 6 different rotations. We could do a push pull legs full, push pull legs full, and then even an upper lower. So like a 10-day rotation. There's so many different ways. And this is why you guys are going to go to our social media and check out the post.
Yeah,
Um,
because we're gonna talk about, like, the bare bones of what a total body workout should include, but we get excited to program, right? We
yeah,
do,
yeah. As you can hear.
rotation A, rotation B, 6-day rotations, all kinds of splits based on our athletes' needs, and
Mhm.
we don't know what your life is like, right? And so
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
going to be general and you can make it yours, but we want to give you as much info as you can so that you do know, hey, this is an option and I don't have to go and do bicep curls 3 times a week because that's the only movement I can think of.
Yes, totally, totally. So, once you realize what your schedule is like, okay, then you can have fun with it. Now, when we actually dive into, okay, I'm working out 3 times a week. What do I start with? The very first thing is that we want to start off with foundational movement patterns. So, most people look at 5 principles, we could say, when it comes to designing your workout and your foundational movement patterns. I'm a little bit of an outlier here. Okay. So the 5 movement patterns, those are they're squat, hinge, push, pull, and a rotational movement. I'm a little bit of an outlier here because I consider the foundational movements to be 6 movements. Okay. So same thing here, squat, hinge, but then I would actually throw a lunge in there. I consider that to be high enough priority foundationally speaking. And then a push pull rotation. So the only difference is adding in a lunge movement.
And we actually compared notes before this episode, and I also had lunge on my list
Yeah.
because your walk is a lunge, right? Your gait, the
Yeah.
way you step, getting in and out of vehicles is a lateral lunge movement because your legs are
Mhm.
coming apart. Whereas with a
Yes.
squat and a hinge, and often your push pull, your legs are in line, right? You're very stable. Lunge takes you out of that. It lets you train unilaterally. And
Yes.
that's important because you might have to stand on one leg sometimes or reach and stand on your tippy toes and things like that. Those
Yeah.
are important human movement patterns, and so that's why lunge is in my list personally.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. When I sent this to Nell, I literally put like debated
Yeah, and I
because a
was like,
lot
"What
of
do you mean debate?
people.
It needs to be on the list."
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things, and Nell said it perfectly. Like unilateral movements, so like doing movements that only require stability of like one leg, let's say, or a split stance, are super important. So yes, we love a lunge movement here. So first thing is the foundational exercises. Now, of those 6, you're not going to be like, oh, like, so I pick and choose. No, we want to have something that covers each of those exercises because these 6 things will literally cover every major muscle group in your body. Okay. So squat is going to be quads. Your squat movement can be, again, any variation, but that's going to hit quads as well as other leg muscles
Yeah,
because,
kind of
as we
like
know,
lower half down.
exactly. Squat is a very dynamic movement. When we talk about hinge, this is where we're looking at your glutes and your hamstrings. When we talk about a lunge, now it's very much going to depend on the type of lunge we're choosing, the type of movement we're choosing, but it is likely going to involve all 3 of those things. Okay, quads, hamstrings, and glutes. Again, we can change the emphasis on which one.
Yeah, we can even incorporate your adductors and your abductors in here, your inner and outer thighs.
Yes, yeah, and again, so important for also hip strength and stability.
Yeah.
So
Because we know,
that's
like,
also
if you struggle with hip pain, you likely struggle with, like, knee pain or low back pain because 'cause they're all interconnected. So this is a
yeah.
really good way to incorporate a stabilizer for the hips so that you're not struggling with those things.
For sure, 100%. Then we look at your push movement.
And
So
remember,
again, as
push is kind of moving away from the body or front side.
yes, exactly. So that's going to be your chest, your delts, your triceps, your pulling movement, so your back and your biceps, and then rotation being core. So again, 6 movements, and that will literally put together a fantastic workout for you, hitting every major muscle group in the body. Now, in terms of what, okay, so like great squat, but there's like a million different squats. Which ones do I choose? I don't want you to just think, guys, that like, oh, okay, so I've got to do like the big squats, like a barbell back squat or a hack squat or things like that. And again, this is where I'm a bit of an outlier. Like studies do show us that like, certain exercises are more effective. When we're doing a full body plan, these are the movements that you should stick to. But again, studies are based off of averages and not the individual.
Yes.
So you guys have to choose movements that work for you. Just like choosing a schedule that works for you, you have to pick movements that work for you. And remember, we are all so individual. We really believe if you work with us one-on-one, we believe in training according to you and making it based off of your individual needs. So there should be no difference, even if you're deciding or putting your program together for yourself. You have to look at your biomechanics, what your body is capable of, where your weakness points are, what you succeed with, maybe
Yeah,
previous
what your
injuries.
past history is. I
Yep.
love a heavy barbell back squat, but I also program and train a lot of women that have had children. Pelvic floor weakness is very real. And if you're trying to brace and bear down in your squat, that's not going to be the most beneficial. So we're
Yes.
still doing our squat pattern, but not with a heavy barbell on our back. We're maybe doing a cannonball or a heels elevated or partial squats or,
Yep.
there's a plethora of things, but just putting a bar on your back and squatting is not the squat for you.
Yes, yes, totally. So again, right, kind of what I said before, but in terms of hypertrophy, in terms of growing muscle, in terms of growing strength, we need to have a couple of things. We need to have intensity, we need to have effective volume, we also need to build a good amount of muscular tension. When we're talking about effective volume, that is only going to happen when you can actually execute a movement properly.
Exactly.
When we're talking about building muscular tension, it again only happens when you know how to perform an exercise properly. So you can do all the volume in the world. You can, choose all the best exercises, but if it's not effective, it won't work, period. So I want you guys to think about here. And again, our social media post will list different examples, but whether it's a barbell back squat, it's a dumbbell goblet squat, it's a suitcase squat, there's a million different squats that you can choose from when you're putting your squat pattern together. Now, when we are talking about, sorry guys, I'm trying to look at the time here because there's so much information. Going over each exercise individually is probably not going to be useful for you. But again, go to our social media, check out that post so you guys can get a lot of different ideas there.
And to help you figure out if your workout is well balanced for you, once you've got that workout built, stand up and then mirror those movements. Like actually just mimic them, like you're miming them and look, okay, so if I'm pressing away from my body in this direction, am I pulling back in the opposite direction? And your movements can kind of play off each other that way. That way you'll know you're hitting the front and the back, top, bottom kind of appropriately.
Totally. Yep. But just as a couple other examples here, right? So that'd be a great one for squat. For your hip hinge, right? We're looking at something likely like a deadlift. So again, whether you do an RDL or a straight leg deadlift or a traditional deadlift, or you use a trap bar or a hex bar, or you do a dumbbell deadlift, okay? Or you do a cable deadlift. These are all still deadlifts. They're all still hip hinge patterns. They're all fantastic. With your pushing exercises, yes, you can do a bench press with a barbell. You could also do a chest press with a machine, or you could do it with dumbbells, or you could do a chest press on the floor. These are all still chest pressing exercises that are very effective. But step one is we want to find a good bang for buck compound exercise so that we're able to hit multiple muscle groups. Because when you look at the big compound exercises, right, they involve more than one muscle group at a time. So choosing a compound exercise, making sure that it's good bang for buck, again, based off your needs, what you can do effectively, is going to help us with our key foundational movements, but also allow us to hit multiple muscle groups at once, which is going to be beneficial when we're working with limited time here. This is where, when we're talking about your 4 main bang for buck compound exercises, this is again when we're looking at a squat, a deadlift, a bench press of some kind, and an overhead press. What variations you do of those, again, can be dependent and can change based off of what works for you. But I want you guys to aim for 1 compound lift in every single session. Okay, so recapping already so far, you've got 6 exercises or 6 movement patterns that you're aiming for. Squat, a hip hinge, a lunge, push, pull, and rotational movement. Out of those 6, 1 movement every single workout should be a big compound movement. Squat, deadlift, overhead press, bench press of some kind, or chest press of some kind.
And the reason we're starting our programming with that is because it's going to take a lot of effort, right? You want to put your best foot forward right from the gate.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, these movements are going to stay the same. Okay, so when we're talking about how long will you run a full body program, like anything else, you should be looking at doing it honestly for a minimum of 8 weeks. If you're changing your program every 4 weeks, you're not getting as much from it. So your compound lift that you're going to program in for every single session is going to stay the same. The volume might change, okay? And remember, volume comes down to, in this case, because we already have our exercise, it can come down to sets and reps. Therefore, it's going to influence how much weight you're lifting. But the intensity will also change based off of those things, right? If you're lifting heavier for less, or if you're lifting lighter for more, it's going to influence your intensity. But the exercise itself is going to stay the same. They are, again, the foundational movements, and they require a lot of practice, like Nel said, because they are tough. So as an example here, if we're talking about 8 weeks of programming, then aim for, let's say, 4 sets, anywhere from 6 to 10 reps when we're talking about these big foundational exercises. Over that 7 to 8 week time frame, what this could look like is week 1, you're going to do 4 sets of 10 reps. Week 2, you're going to do 4 sets of 9. Week 3, 4 by 8. Week 4, 4 by 7. You're going to carry on with that until you hit 4 sets of 5 or 6 reps.
Right, because this is letting you increase that weight as well, right? The weight doesn't stay the same necessarily. We're looking to increase in other ways as we're doing less reps.
Exactly. So when we're talking about changing your volume, again, this is how your volume is changing, because your reps are coming down. So your weight is going to be able to go up to match the fact that you were doing less reps. This is how we are building strength. So week 1, 4 sets of 10 reps. You're going to bring every week, you're going to lose 1 rep, as your weight is therefore going to go up till you hit 5 reps. That should be about 7 weeks in. And then on your 8th week, you could do what we would call like a deload. So it's a little bit of a back off week. In this case, you're maybe going to do 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps, or 3 or 4 sets, of 8 to 10 reps. But it's allowing you to have a little bit more recovery time. Then you could start that all over again, and notice that your weight now, starting again at 4 sets of 10 reps, is likely higher than you did it the first time. And that is how we build strength. Now, that's part 1. Okay. So we've got your foundational exercises. We've got your bread and butter movements. Yes. Your compound lifts. Step 2 is your accessory movements here, your accessory exercises. So these guys, they follow your compound movements. So this is a movement that could actually be very similar to the compound movement that you just did. Again, because it's like accessorizing, right? Think about a good outfit, ladies. Gentlemen too, I know you're out there. You've got your main outfit, and then you accessorize that shit. And
you always accessorize based on the vibe, right? So we're not just pulling things at random. You're not putting the most hideous thing on your body that doesn't match the outfit. It matches the outfit. So your compound lift is your outfit, and then your accessory work is what goes with the outfit.
Exactly. So in this case, it's a movement that is similar to the compound movement that you just did. So in this case, right, we could look at a shoulder press followed by a lateral raise. Shoulder press is your compound movement. It's your overhead press. Multiple muscle groups involved. You're still hitting your lateral delt, but we know the lateral delt tends to be the weaker muscle group in your shoulders. So now the accessory exercise is going to be a dumbbell lateral raise. Although that could also be an isolation exercise, which we will talk about next. In a squat, right, we could go from a squat to a Bulgarian split squat here, okay? So similar movement pattern, but also going to assist with the big movement that you just did.
Right, and if we're looking at those foundational movements, let's say you've opened with a squat, then you've moved into that accessory work as your Bulgarian split squat. Well, there's your squat and your lunge right there. Check those off your list.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Now, another thing here that's a little bit unpopular, but very effective as well, is actually choosing an accessory movement from another, like choosing an accessory movement that technically complements another compound lift. Okay. This is when we kind of get into, like antagonist muscle groups. What we mean by that is, instead of doing a big movement like a squat that is mostly quad dominant and then going into a Bulgarian split squat, which is still very quad dominant, in this case, you might actually do a squat followed by a dumbbell RDL. this sounds like it's very at odds with each other, but this is how we truly create a full body workout program. And again, it is still going to play into each other and still complement each other very nicely.
Yeah,
So
because you've
yeah,
got your agonist muscles, which are the ones that are supporting, and your antagonists, which is the ones that are not helping, right? So,
yeah,
what Rusty's saying here is the muscle that you work next, the exercise that you do next, is still complementary because it was supporting the first time.
yes, yes, absolutely. And for a lot of people, they actually find that they're better able to execute their accessory movement because, again, it is muscle groups, right? Like in an RDL, if we're hitting our glutes and hamstrings, your glutes and hamstrings are involved in a squat, but again, it wasn't the prime movers. So you maybe actually feel like you have more energy now going into that
Yeah, it's
accessory
almost like they're
exercise.
a little bit fired up already.
Yep, exactly. So step 2 is your accessory exercises. This can go one of two ways. You can either choose an accessory exercise that literally complements your compound lift, a very similar movement pattern, or you can choose an accessory exercise that is technically not complementary.
The opposite.
The opposite. Thank you. Yes. And it's still going to benefit you. It absolutely is. Now with your, or after your accessory exercises, we're going to fill the rest of your time with isolation exercises. Okay. Isolation exercises are literally, as the name implies, they are isolating one muscle group. So in this case, we're looking at things like a bicep curl, a leg extension, a hamstring curl, a lateral raise. These are exercises that are great because they drive a lot of muscular tension if we have good form and good control into a specific target muscle that we are focusing on, because again, we are only focusing on one muscle group with an isolation exercise.
And you can often figure out what an isolation exercise is based on what the rest of your body is doing. If you're not sure, you're like, okay, can I sit or stand and only one part of me moves? Those are generally isolation exercises.
True. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I never thought about that. That's really good. With your isolation exercises here, okay, I want you to keep in mind that unlike your compound movements, excuse me, where we said those movements are staying the same, they're not changing. Your reps might change, but the movement itself is not changing. With an isolation exercise, you could actually change these out a little bit more often. Your isolation exercises, as Nell said, they are very much involved in your foundational movements, in your compound movements. But with isolation exercises, there are so many varieties. There's so many different options, and they all, again, play into your foundational compound lifts that you can change it up more often. Not only does this keep it more interesting for you, but isolation exercises tend to be harder to progress, like a lateral raise. And
5 pound club
so,
over here.
yeah, they are easier to master, right? The movements are a lot easier to master, but they are harder to progress. So, utilize the different variations that are available. In doing so, you're likely also going to be better able to actually progress that isolation exercise. Uh, and again, it keeps it really fun. So with your isolation exercises, this is where I would actually say opposite to your compound movement, right? So again, compound movement exercise stays the same, but our reps are changing. Whereas with isolation exercises, your exercise might change, but reps are likely going to stay the same. Now there could be a range, but they're going to be on the higher range
I was
usually.
going to say, typically, do you do these higher as well?
Yeah, definitely. Again, because we're talking about isolation exercises, it's a lot of usually stress on that one joint that's moving when we're really just pushing for like heavy weight, and we're better able to drive more muscular tension, I find, in higher reps on isolation exercises. So, your reps will definitely be higher than your compound lifts. We want to keep blood pumping this way. We want to keep joints healthy. We want to really prioritize hypertrophy actually in these isolation exercises. So in this case, it could be anywhere, honestly, from like 10 reps to 20 plus reps, depending on what you're talking about here. But once you have your compound movements, okay, Then we are programming our accessory movements. Then we are filling our time in with our isolation exercises.
And
And
compound lifts or movements are generally heavier, lower reps, and then your accessory is kind of that mid ground, and then
yep,
your isolation are those higher reps, lighter weights typically.
exactly. Yep, yep. Um, when it comes to accessory and isolation, I just want to emphasize that the movements you pick here are going to be based off of you, what works for you, and just they're up to you, period. You want to choose exercises, again, that put you in a position for your ideal range of motion. Your ideal range of motion is going to be the range of motion that you are effective in. Accessory movements, they're movements that play off of as well, or they should likely play off of your weak spots, right? If we are truly choosing these exercises to help benefit our compound lifts, then everyone's got certain parts of their compound lift that they struggle with, whether it's the initial lift off, whether it's the negative. So choosing exercises that prioritize or really focus on the areas that you are weakest with. I know it sucks because those ones don't feel natural and they're way harder, but they're going to make you stronger in the long term for it.
True. I do have one question for you
Yeah.
because we talked about starting with a compound lift and bench press falls under our compound list.
Yeah.
Would you then, because we're talking total body here, for your accessory work, really specifically hone in on the legs next?
After a bench?
Yeah, because if your bench is your compound lift, but we're keeping it total body,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
would you consider programming isolation? So something like a hamstring curl or a leg extension.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I know we talked about accessory work being like opposite, but I would still keep it to that like section of the body.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't do like an accessory movement as like legs after bench.
Right. So when you
Um,
guys are programming your own, we're thinking about that too, right? So isolation doesn't necessarily mean an upper body movement, right? We're talking about a leg
yes.
extension or a curl or something like that. So
Yep.
keep that in mind too. When your compound is upper body based, your accessory or sorry, your isolation should probably be the opposite and vice versa. If you're doing a squat, your isolation should be primarily upper body based.
Yes. No, that's a very, very good point. And honestly, you guys, this is why I'm not a huge fan of like on a full body program, just having 3 days that you rotate through. I like having more than that because as you start to design your program, you will notice that, okay, if my compound movement is my, again, squats, right? And my accessory movement now is, let's say, my Bulgarian split squat, which when we go back to those 6 foundational movements, now checks 2 off, right? We're not doing, we've got your squat and we've got your lunge. Okay, then we're like, okay, well, I will throw in a third exercise here for a hip hinge of some sort, but this is still technically an accessory movement because we've already done our big compound movement. So this is when maybe you're doing a cable RDL for a hip hinge or a hip thrust. Now then we go into our upper body days, but it's like, okay, but now my upper body days aren't necessarily my compound days. I don't have as much energy. So this is why having more rotations is beneficial because now we can also have days where we attack our upper body potentially first. And we actually still hit legs, but we're only hitting legs from an accessory standpoint. So you might have on a day, let's say, where your bench is your compound movement, and then you do follow it up with your accessory movements, staying in the upper body. Then you go into your squat based work to hit that foundational exercise. But you're not aiming for 5 reps or 6 reps. You're actually doing a dumbbell goblet squat in this case, right? Which would be still a squat, but more accessory work. So slightly higher reps here. I hope that makes sense. And if you guys have questions, I know this is a lot of info for you guys. So again, this is why our social media post is going to be really beneficial for you guys to actually see the visual and the breakdown here. But likewise, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask us below. We do engage with you guys on the comments in this podcast. And then also you can go right to our social media and ask us questions based off of that post as well. We're happy to answer those for you guys. If you guys ask us, questions that need a video response, we might even make it into a video on social media. So hit us up over there so we can absolutely help you out.
Absolutely. So where can they find you on social media?
Yes, thank you. So much talking. I'm like ready for my snack now. So for me, you guys, you can find me at coach.frizzle on everything: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, I think is my name as well.
Perfect. And I'm coach.alana.nel on Instagram for sure. And I think everywhere else I'm Alana J Nel, just to confuse you.
Yeah, just to
But
keep
yeah,
it
you
nice.
can also find us on our podcast page as well if you have trouble typing and can't find us individually. So you can
Yeah.
also ask us there.
Absolutely. All the links, guys, will be here below in the show notes as well. So, links to our social medias as well as the post going over everything. So, again, questions, drop them below. If this was helpful for you, feel free to share it, maybe with your workout buddy. You guys can program something together, or likewise, show us some love, leave us some stars, ideally 5. And we appreciate it as always. But next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about nutrition, and just New Year's resolutions, setting yourself up for success this year. So we look forward to talking to you guys then.
We'll see you guys.
All right. Bye bye.